What's up guys, Rich here. Let's take a look at the Le Forban Sécurité Malouine. And Le Forban is not just a French brand, it is a decidedly French watch with a lot of French pride in its designs. It's also a watch with real watch history and significance. In fact, in 1969, Le Forban used to outfit their French Navy with their watches. But fast forward to 2019, under new ownership led by Sebastien, who took over the brand. And in between 1969 and 2019, there were 20 different models bearing the Le Forban name. But in its current collection, there are two. The original model from 1969, the Brestoise, and then followed up in 1972 by the Malouine. And both models, the Brestoise and Malouine, are true recreations, true faithful recreations to the original 1969 and 1972 models. When I talked about this being a really true French watch, it's not just a watch that's designed in France using a French brand. It's actually made in France, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Both watches are also named after famous French ports. The Malouine is in 38.4 millimeters, 45 lug to lug, 12.75 millimeters tall, and it uses a 20 millimeter strap width. And while we're talking about the strap, it's interesting to note that while this may look like a regular common tropic strap, it is actually manufactured in-house by and for Le Forban, including their signed buckle. So instead of sourcing their straps and a buckle, they actually manufacture this in-house. And I just touched on that about the watch being more than just designed in France using a real historical French brand. It's actually manufactured in Paris by Atelier Christian Plantin. And if we don't know who he is one of Paris's go-to watchmakers to either restore, repair, or manufacture the watches. And that's who manufactures the watches for Le Forban. This is a very pretty watch. So spoiler alert, I do like the watch. There are some other points worth noting, but you might hear me describe the watch as pretty because it is. Look at that sunray dial. Part of the French design is we can see the colors of the French flag above 6 o'clock. We can see the blue, white, and red, although the blue might be a little harder to pick up against this blue dial, but it's definitely there and you can see it a lot easier in person. This model is also available in black, and we can see the Le Forban branding and the anchor right below 12 o'clock. I also like the steel frame around the date window and around the chapter ring. And while this is an original 1972 design, probably the first watch, at least dial-wise, that it reminded me of was probably JLC's Memovox for some reason. But then that goes away, and it is a very original design. The indices and the hour and minute hand are loomed with C3 Super Luminova. However, on the bezel, it is just a pip that is loomed, not the marker. So, of course, I'd like to see the other markers loomed because this is a very nicely satiny brushed bezel inlay. Very tastefully done. And I think that complements and contrasts quite nicely the entire polished finishing of the case, which is a little unusual instead of the brush look for a diver's watch. But it also lends itself to more of a dressier watch because of the polished finishing. And because of its size at 38.4 millimeters, this is definitely a watch that can be worn as a dress watch because it's certainly not a big watch, nor is it a chunky watch. So I think it makes sense that they went with a polished finishing just for the dress watch, dress/sporty watch hybrid. I think that they were going for. It is tastefully done. It is well done. The crown guards are actually for a purpose, not just cosmetic, because it is, if we were hoping and wanting it to be, it is a screw-down crown. It is water resistant to 150 meters. So it is absolutely a genuine dive watch because this watch has real pedigree there. It's just the polished finishing caught me a little bit by surprise, but I actually really like it because it, like I said, for all the same reasons, it just goes well against this bezel inlay. It is a solid case back, and it is a really tastefully done solid case back instead of an exhibition case back. We can see that diver helmet, and it is not just a very etched on shallow diver helmet. It is deep, and it gives it really that three-dimensional look. So they did a nice job with a diver helmet. The movement that is powering the Malouine, and this might be the only point of contention for the watch, it is powered by the Miyota 8215 automatic movement. It doesn't allow for hacking. And I know a lot of people might be wondering, well, why didn't they at least use the 9000 series like the 9015? Well, I spoke with Sebastien about that choice of the movement, and his reason is he wanted to keep this price point well below $500, and it is. The retail price on this is $480 US, and that includes shipping and VAT. So without the VAT, the price of the watch is about $450. So he succeeded at keeping the price point where he wanted, and I know the movement isn't that important or a deal breaker for most of us. I happen to be a movement person. I would have liked to have seen the 9000 series, but certainly not a deal breaker to me because it still runs smoothly, and we know that it is a dependable movement. And for well under $500, it is hard to argue. And I wouldn't call the movement a con. Whatever we want to call it, maybe not the preference for some of us, but there are a lot more pros than whatever we want to call the movement that would make this watch just an easier recommend. Again, it is a very pretty looking watch. Nothing about this watch feels cheap or even screams value watch. It has a premium feel in the hand. It is nicely finished. The polishing, they did a nice job on. It has nice turn action on the bezel. Nice and taut. Again, that aluminum matte brush finishing on the bezel inlay really complements the polished case quite nicely. So there is a lot to like about this watch. I think the 38mm size is also going to be quite attractive for a lot of people. Overall, there isn't, I can't really come across any flaws with the watch. It is nicely done. This is the packaging that the watch comes in. Pretty simple looking. It looks like a sunglass case. Colors of the French flag right there, and that's where the watch comes in. The warranty card is there as well. So it is hard for me to argue against anything on the watch. Would the movement have been an icing on the cake? Sure, but it wouldn't be enough for this to be a deal breaker because it's just too attractive of a watch. And I know that at this price point, between about $450, I think it just ekes past the $300 to $400 range, and we have a saying for that range, right? It's called a beater, because we would wear the watch as hard as we want and we wouldn't care what happened to the watch with regards to any damages or dings or scratches to it. I think this is just outside of that quote beater price range, and even if it wasn't, I think this watch is just too nice looking to be treated that way. But it's a good thing it's not in that price range. It is at a there's not a lot of competition at this price range for if we're looking for a nice diver's watch with a lot of rich history to it. And how do I feel about a historical watch brand that has been resurrected? Well, I don't have any issue with that. In fact, it can be a good thing. It's just like the reboot of movies or television shows, right? I mean, I don't have any issues with all the remakes of those Marvel films or even a lot of the TV sitcoms that have been rebooted. If I like the originals and the new reboots have been done well and right by the originals, then I don't have any problem with them if I like the original. And I think that the case in La Forban, I think Sebastien has done right by this brand. So that can be a good thing. It's just unfortunate that sometimes a once legendary brand just suffered whatever setbacks they did and couldn't carry on. So in that case, I think it is a good thing. It can be a good thing for a watch to be seen again. And I think, again, Sebastien did a really nice job at bringing back La Forban. He did a nice job resurrecting this brand. I think if we're looking for a brand and a watch that has all these factors, a French brand that is not just designed in France or using a historical French brand, but is actually assembled and made in France and using some French cues around the design, well, I think the La Forban is definitely a brand that is worth our attention. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time.